Hello everyone, welcome to another video, but before don't forget subscribe in channel and leave your like. Uncertainty reigns supreme for most of Seahawks offensive line. There's been no shortage of discussion about the need for John Schneider to address the offensive line during the offseason. However, before fixing anything, the starting point is taking inventory of what the team has. Monday marked 7 weeks since the Seattle Seahawks unloaded offensive coordinator Ryan Grubb after a disappointing offensive season played a material role in the Hawks ending the year on the outside looking in when it comes to the playoffs. In the time since, former offensive line coach Scott Huff has found new employment as the tight ends coach for the Los Angeles Rams, but there have been exactly 0 roster moves that have addressed the biggest impediment the Seattle offense faced in 2024, specifically the offensive line. So, with just 2 weeks until the start of free agency and less than 2 months until day 1 of the 2025 NFL Draft, plenty of questions remain about how the Hawks will address the offensive line. Of course, before being able to address the offensive line, it becomes necessary to understand exactly what the team has and what position or positions it needs to address. Most will agree that Charles Cross at left tackle has certainly not performed at a Pro Bowl level, but that shouldn't come as a surprise given the fact that Cross is just 24 years old and likely has a lot of very good football ahead of him. He has steadily improved over the first 3 seasons of his career and has the athleticism to likely have a significant amount of upside potential remaining, especially given that tackles tend to continue to improve as pass blockers all the way through their 20s moving left to right. The big questions for the offseason surround the interior of the offensive line. Maybe Laken Tomlinson comes back to once again steal developmental practice reps and game snaps from the young trio of guards the Seahawks having Christian Haynes, Anthony Bradford and Sattle Laumie. Or maybe Tomlinson moves on and Seattle opts to bring in another bargain bin veteran. Or maybe the Hawks simply tell Geno to strap in while the line rolls with Haynes, Bradford and Laumie competing for the 2 starting spots at guard. Keeping the same development curve as was presented for tackles, here are what things look like for interior offensive linemen, at least in terms of the pass block win rate, PBWR, metric from ESPN. Thus, the question at guard is how much will the Seattle front office be willing to invest at a position at which it already has 3 young players who saw playing time in 2024. Especially when all of them are young enough that they should see significant improvement in the coming years? Fans certainly didn't like the on-field results from the interior of the offensive line in 2024, and that included the team having signed a bargain bin veteran in free agency, so does it make sense to add another bargain bin veteran who is going to prevent those youngsters from getting the practice reps and game experience necessary to develop? If the answer to that question is no, then it becomes a question of whether John Schneider will be willing to invest in the interior of the offensive line in free agency. In 2017 he, famously signed Luke Joeckel and tried very hard to add TJ Lang, but in the years since it's been largely back to the bargain bin. And the results have largely been the kind one would be expected to find in the bargain bin. In addition to adding Tomlinson and George Fant in free agency in 2024, Schneider also added center Connor Williams shortly after training camp started, a move that certainly did not turn out as well as the Hawks had likely hoped. Williams, of course, retired mid-season, leaving second-year Olu Oluwatimi to start for the rest of the year. Oluwatimi played well enough that many fans would love to see him get the first shot at the starting role in 2025, but there are legitimate questions about his fit in the system of new offensive coordinator Clint Kubiak. Is he athletic enough, and specifically, does he possess the foot speed necessary for success in a wide zone scheme? If Oluwatimi isn't the answer, could the Seahawks turn to second-year man Jalen Sundle? Or is Sundle too inexperienced, with just 48 NFL snaps at center under his belt? Given the amount of inexperience at the position, it won't be a surprise if Schneider and Kubiak bring in an inexpensive experienced vet who has played for Kubiak in the past, whether that be Connor McGovern, Mason Cole or someone else, even if it's just to teach the system during the offseason. Moving on to right tackle, the Seahawks again have a whole lot of names, all of whom come with their own questions. Will Fant be able to stay off injured reserve in 2025? Of course, that question assumes he's even on the roster to begin with there at least being a chance he could become a cap casualty. Will Mike Carrol find better success in his second season, or will the jump from Division II to the NFL prove to be too great? And perhaps the biggest question is, how will Abe Lucas look in his second season back after whatever surgery was performed on his knee last offseason? Lucas appeared a shell of his former self on many of his snaps during the 2024 season. That certainly should not come as a surprise, given his recovery from off-season surgery kept him out of practice until late October and his first game action was not until late November. With that in mind, questions about exactly what Lucas brings to the team will persist until fans get a chance to see him in game action on the field. In short, with free agency just over the horizon, the Seahawks have Cross at left tackle, and then 4 question marks, with a general manager in charge of addressing those question marks whose track record when it comes to the offensive line isn't great. Seahawks seemingly trending towards cutting ties with $51 million ex-starter. Several Seattle Seahawks veterans are in danger of being cut in the coming weeks as the franchise looks to get below the salary cap heading into the 2025 NFL season. As Heavy Sports recently discussed, star receiver Tyler Lockett has been frequently mentioned as a potential cap casualty. While this may be true, there is another expensive veteran who also faces an uncertain future in the Pacific Northwest. The Athletics' Michael Sean Dugar labeled linebacker Draymond Jones' 3-year, $51 million contract as untenable. Jones was labeled as the Seahawks' most likely cut candidate, edging out Lockett. Jones signed a 3-year, $51 million deal in March 2023, the richest external free agent deal of the John Schneider era by average annual salary, Dugar wrote in a February 17, 2025, story titled, Potential NFL Salary Cap Cuts for All 32 Teams, from Cooper Kupp to Davante Adams and more. The contract was restructured last season, increasing Jones' 2025 cap hit to $25.6 million. Seattle saves $11.5 million by trading or releasing Jones, who might be the team's 5th best pass rusher when everyone is healthy. Jones is only 28 and a decent pass rusher, but his current cap figure appears to be untenable. Also, Seattle would save $17 million by trading or releasing Tyler Lockett, who turns 33 in September. As things stand now, Jones is slated to enter the final year of a $51 million deal. Jones has a massive $25.6 million cap hit in 2025, and Seattle already restructured Jones' contract in 2024 to lessen the financial blow. The defender was once a starter for Seattle as Jones started 16 games for the Seahawks in 2023. Jones also started 7 games in 2024, but the majority of his 17 appearances came in a reserve role. The pass rusher finds himself behind Boy Mafe on the Seahawks depth chart. What Jones does best is get to the quarterback, but his production does not match his current price tag. Jones has not topped 5 sacks since signing the massive deal with the Seahawks in 2023. The defender posted 28 tackles, 13 quarterback hits, 7 tackles for loss, 4 sacks, and a forced fumble in 2024. There is a world where the Seahawks are able to once again get Jones to agree to a restructure. The pass rusher likely knows that if he is released, there is no new $51 million contract waiting from another team. Yet, these scenarios often end with a clean break for both parties. Seahawks general manager John Schneider indicated that the franchise would have more clarity about the team's cut candidates after the NFL Combine. "We usually find that out at the Combine," the Seahawks exec explained during a February 20 episode of The John Schneider Show with Seattle Sports. "We'll find out exactly, like okay, what are other people looking at? Other free agents, like okay, they want to make X, right? Player X wants to make $8 million, right? And then, we find out okay, well, actually he's gonna make $4 million by the end of the weekend. The agent may come back to us and be like, hey, this guy's not gonna have the market that we thought. And then you can say, okay, well then yeah, maybe there won't be another cap casualty, right? Honestly, like every $1 million is huge, for the salary cap. Pete Carroll's touching words about his connection with Seattle. Pete Carroll was back in a familiar position Tuesday, speaking at the podium at the annual NFL Scouting Combine in Indianapolis. Only he was there in an unfamiliar role, as the new Las Vegas Raiders head coach. Of course, Carroll spoke at plenty of NFL combines during his wildly successful tenure as Seattle Seahawks head coach from 2010 through 2023. And being back in Indy after a year away from the sidelines, the legacy he left in the Emerald City was understandably one of the questions he was asked during his media availability. Carroll asked about what his time in Seattle meant to him, and he called them great years and said he's keeping his house in the area even with a new job in a different state. It's still home to me, you know. I never would have known had I not been hanging around the area this year how much of a connection we have made with the community and the people. The fans and the people that I meet running through the airports, in the streets, wherever we're going, have been so gracious, and it's had an obvious effect on me of how we did relate through the time we were together. And I'm really grateful for that. I'm really grateful for that. I didn't have the idea that there was that much of an exchange. Like I said, even in coming here to the Raiders, my job isn't just the team, to me. It extends beyond that. It extends to our fans and extends to the people that support us and fill our stadium up, make it hard to play in because we're filling every seat and all that. They're helping us win, so we're all in this thing together. And in taking that effort to Seattle, we were rewarded so extraordinarily because of the 12s and the way that they love their teams. So it's an unforgettable relationship, and I'm never going to lose connection with that. I just don't want to, and so I'm going to do everything I can to stay connected as much as possible. By the way, Carroll had an interesting trip to the Combine, as he flew on the same flight from SeaTac as Seahawks general manager John Schneider and coach Mike McDonald. Click the link below for more on that. And you fan, do you think about Pete Carroll's situation? Write in the comments.